Good afternoon and welcome on the Sunset Safari. My name is Brent and I'm going to be your guide. And we've got Brian on camera with me. We have Scott and Jandre on the other vehicle. And we have Nikki and Tara and Eugene in final control. Welcome to all our regular viewers. Always great to have you on the back of the vehicle. To any new viewers, we are live, so you are seeing everything we're seeing at the exact same time. You're also able to communicate with us and ask us questions about what we're seeing in the bush. And you can do this by emailing us. And the email address is questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. And what we started off with up there, unfortunately, he is being very accommodating. And for those of you who might be new, you're not sure, I like to test our viewers and see if they actually are learning from us and listening to us. And what we have there is a predatory bird. I wonder which one of our smart viewers is going to be able to tell us which bird that is. And you can send your answers, as I just said, to questions@wildearth.tv, or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. So what I'm going to try to do now we've got a good establishing shot, is I'm going to try to get a little bit closer. Hopefully he doesn't take off. And you can see he's got his head down. He might have spotted something. Just wait a second to see if he takes off. So he's sitting up there watching the ground for potential prey. No, looks like he's lost interest in whatever that might have been. So we're going to try maneuver ourselves into a better position to see him. Maybe get a nice frontal shot. And it is a balmy winter's afternoon here. It is 73 Fahrenheit and 23 degrees Celsius. So a nice warm-ish winter's afternoon. And now, as we look at the side profile, there's a very distinguishing feature that we might be able to get, which helps with the identification of this bird. How's that, Brian? Oh, Murphy's Law. There we go, we get him flying there. You can see very distinct legs. Might land not too far away. Nice camera work, Brian. So I'll discuss his feeding habits and whatnot when I have an answer to what he is. But in the meantime, to let you know what my plan is, we spent a very short time with a really nice big herd of elephants that had quite a few little ones with them. So what I'm going to try to do is, they were heading generally in a southeastern direction, and I'm hoping they haven't crossed out of our traverse area. So I'm going to go see if we can find that big herd of elephants again. Of course, apart from that, we'll be looking at all sorts and everything as we move along. Oh, we've got some more feathered friends, much smaller here. Oh, nice and close to the vehicle. There you go, very pretty little seed eater. And he's even got a grass seed in his mouth. So you find them in flocks of either just them or mixed flocks of other little seed eaters like waxbills and firefinches, and so a little yellow-eyed canary. Very pretty little guy. So, taking advantage of all the grass seeds that have now fallen off. Oh, there we go. 1, 2, and down the hatch. Oh, a little ruffle. Beautiful yellow markings around the face. Quite a relaxed little guy. Normally they disappear quite quickly. There's a little flock of them feeding on these short grasses, collecting all the seeds. Oh, there's another one off to the left who's actually feeding that Brian in the ground, right opposite you. Let's see if we can. Oh no, he's gone. And that one's gone. No, that one's still there. Anyway, we'll leave the seed eaters for the seeds. He's disappeared. Unfortunately, he just didn't hang around long enough. And we'll go look for something that eats something a bit bigger than grass seeds. So we've had a few different answers in on that rap guy that took off down in this general direction. There were a couple of they were incorrect, and well done from the Netherlands, who's probably our resident bird expert here on Safari Life, who's got that correct. It is a brown snake eagle. I'm just gonna stop for a second. And have a look why. Oh, and also Ron from Scotland also got it correct. We're just going to have a look why it wasn't some of the other things that were mentioned, a batelier, and the other one was a brown snake eagle. A brown fish eagle, which is a bird I'd like to see. Not one we get here. I'm not sure if there is a brown snake eagle somewhere in the world. Fish eagle somewhere in the world. There might be. Here we go. So, a juvenile and a Wahlberg's eagle. So, let's start with the Wahlberg's, as it is one of the true eagles. So, when we refer to a true eagle, they're all, of course, all eagles, but there we go, Marshall. There we go. Number 4 there, bar. So one of the main distinguishing features, apart from the obvious, which is the size. Wahlberg's eagle is quite a lot smaller, only reaches about 60 centimeters, and if you have a look at the legs, the feathers extend all the way down the legs. Also, the head shape is wrong, and that eagle, the brown snake eagle we saw, had quite a lot of bare skin on its face. And the other we had was a batelier. Now, a batelier and a snake eagle are actually, a batelier is a type of snake eagle, so you were very close. And a juvenile batelier can look very, very similar to a brown snake eagle. But if we have a look at the color of its legs, they're red. and also the head shape is slightly different, but it does still have the snake eagle head shape. But also, as it took off, they've still got that very short tail, which is an indicator of a basileia. And there we go. The brown snake eagle, you can see, definitely can be confused with a juvenile basileia. They've got that very distinct yellow eye, which is very, 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 very apparent. I'm not sure if we could see it from where we were though. But also just the general shape, how they sit very upright, and the white legs without any feathers, or the feathers don't extend all the way to the feet. It's probably one of the most diagnostic features to differentiate snake eagles from the true eagles, like Wilbergs, African hawk eagles, martial eagles. All the feathers there extend all the way to the bottom of the feet. And okay, let's carry on in search of pachyderms. There we go, almost on cue. We have not a juvenile, an adult. It's going a bit too fast. And out over our head. Unfortunately, we can't get much higher than that. There was a basileia, and you could see very distinctly the adults. You can't really get confused because the adults got such striking colors and that very, very short tail, which gives them their name. Because when they fly, they always look like they're balancing, and a basileia is sort of the French word for an acrobat or tightrope walker. So it looks like some always balancing when they fly, and that's from having that very short tail. And that's a special adaptation, because they quite often don't fly nearly as high as the other eagles. They don't need as much control in their gliding, and that is because they are often the first animal on the scene of a kill. So way before the vultures and that, and they have incredible eyesight, but they do fly quite low in comparison to the other sort of scavenging eagles and vultures, and they've developed that to have quite a lot of sort of maneuverability low to the ground, and they don't need to control their soaring as much. I just thought I saw very interesting. So I thought I saw a track there. A quick look. Not as interesting as I thought it was. It was so if we have a look there quickly, just very quickly, I thought there might be some aardvark tracks, but what happened there, those ones there, it's actually with a vehicle and impala tracks being very close together, it looked like an aardvark track. But speaking of tracks, we're going to jump across to Scott, who's on some steaming hot tracks, and hopefully there's something interesting at the end of them. So we will see you a little later in the show.
Hello everyone, and welcome on board with myself, Scott, and Jandre, who I'm teamed up with on camera today. We've come across some really fresh leopard tracks. We think they could be Sindiles. Take a look. It's not easy to see them, although now that the sun's poked out, you can see the pad marks and the toe marks, and the leopard is heading up in this direction. So let's just follow these tracks. They're not difficult to see, but if we follow these tracks for long enough, we should come across a leopard. Surprise! Here he is. What? Confirm you're talking to me? Apologies for that, folks, just had the wrong radio going. But how awesome is this? We got so lucky this afternoon, and we were heading into the general area where we saw Sindile, this young male leopard, this morning, and before we could even get there, here he was lying in the road. Now, a problem with this road that he's lying on is that it's one of the main access roads to a lot of lodges in the area. So I'm expecting quite a few vehicles to drive along here, and obviously as soon as the first vehicle does need to get past him, he's going to move off into the bushes, but that will happen from time to time, and it's just something that I will warn you about in advance. We are going to reposition and get ourselves a little bit closer to him so that we can enjoy looking at this beautiful young cat. We did have tracks of, in all likelihood, his mother heading into Djuma. Well, now that we're a little bit closer, we can let Jandre zoom in and show you a closer look. So, as I was saying, his mother must be somewhere nearby hunting, and hopefully she'll be successful and come back and call him. That's what I'm hoping for, as we've seen him a fair amount, but not very often are they together. We spend a lot of time with him alone. Although this morning we got lucky and saw them together very briefly, but then she started stalking some animals. We weren't sure what they were, so we left her to stalk through some thick bush. She was unsuccessful, and we stayed with him as he lay in a marula tree. Now I can already see a big truck in the distance coming, so Sindile sadly is going to have to find another patch of shade shortly, but thankfully I can see a termite mound nearby. Well, for those of you who may be joining for the first time, a very warm welcome, and it's important to let all of you know that leopard are typically very shy and elusive cats that would prefer not to be seen by humans. However, in the Sabi Sands and a few other unique places in Africa, you have leopard that have become accustomed to people and vehicles over many years of very strict protocol and guidelines to slowly get them comfortable with us. But what I'm saying is we are very fortunate to be viewing a leopard this close without it even being concerned about us. Well, I'm glad to hear that Valerie and Jill enjoyed that little surprise as we led from his tracks to him. It's difficult to see tracks, especially when the sun is quite high up or when it's overcast, but it certainly was worth an attempt. Now within the next minute or so, a big white van is going to arrive on the scene, and he has to get past. So he will slowly creep up, I guess, and Sindile will have to make way. But it's nothing to worry about. We kind of coexist out here, and where possible we don't interfere with the animals' lives, but every now and then a slight disturbance is made. As you can see at the moment, he is fast asleep, and he will possibly continue to sleep for quite some time this afternoon. Although, what has he heard or seen? Something's got his attention there. Yesterday afternoon we were incredibly lucky and saw him stalking some dwarf mongooses. He got very close to catching some, but he still has a little bit to learn. He's got about another 6 or 7 months until the likely age, or the age or average age, until he gets booted out of home by his mother. So he's still got some time to practice. Interesting question through from Susan in Tennessee, and she would like to know what would happen if Djuma or quarantine. Oh, he's a clever young leopard and has made space for the lorry, probably long before the lorry driver even saw him. I'm just going to have to motion to the lorry driver to continue coming. And Djuma or quarantine could very well kill this young leopard if they came across him. So that is a sad reality of what goes on. But the only way to find out what will happen when leopards interact is to actually see them or come across one another. We can only speculate so much. So with all of these questions, we will try and give you the general or most likely response of the animals, but it's important to know that we can never be sure, and that's what keeps it interesting out here. Animals have got a mind of their own, and all of them will act individually. None of them follow the textbook. Here he comes. It looks like he has found a new comfortable spot just off the road, which is probably a better option for him, although he may want to come back and lie on the cool sand. It's quite a warm afternoon. Initially this morning it was overcast, but between drives the sun has managed to burn off some clouds, and now we have a partly cloudy day. And hopefully it remains a cloudless sky. It's going to be full moon this evening, and it should be rising up just a few minutes before we close the broadcast, so that's something also to look forward to a little bit later on. Oh, beautiful with that sun on his coat. Well, Julia and Carla are both concerned about the chance of him being run over by a vehicle, and you saw by his response long before the vehicle even got to him, he moved off the road. And it's important to remember that most of the animals out here have got far better senses than us and are far quicker than us, so they can detect vehicles coming long before we would be able to. And even if they didn't, they've got the agility and speed to get out of the way quite quickly. So very seldomly do animals get run over. And isn't this wonderful, watching them pace down the road looking for another shady spot? It's interesting because he actually gets left on this main road quite often. And I'm not sure if it's his mother thinking, well, at least there's something for him to watch the cars go by as he waits for her to come home, some mild entertainment. But there's a strange trend where we do often find that she leaves him on either side of this boundary road. On the left we have Djuma, and on the right we have Arethusa, and her possible territory is shifting more into Djuma. We're seeing her more in Djuma than we did 7 months ago when we started the show. We actually never really saw her until the last 3 months or so. And even though she can leave him within Djuma, away from this road, and within Arethusa, away from this main road. Like I say, quite often in the last few weeks or months, we've seen him here. Charlie and Sarah are interested to know if we think he's looking a little bit thin, and yes, he is. I think he would be very happy if his mother came back a little bit later this afternoon to lead him back to a kill that she's made. But in the same breath, it's not that he's starving, he's comfortable. You seldom see predators walking around looking extremely full-bellied. And there's certainly nothing to worry about. I think his mother catches a lot of small prey in general. The majority of times that I've seen her hunting, she's been after steenbuck and duiker. Maybe that is just complete default and that's all we get to see, but the fact that we haven't seen her on a kill for quite some time, a large kill, means that she may be making smaller kills that they can both finish off in a very short period and also not show signs of complete full-bellied like the bloated lions we sometimes see that have been feeding on large kills. It's a dead still afternoon at the moment. Oh, I think I might have found something for us to look at while we watch this leopard sleeping. There's a Bateleur eagle about to fly over us, so we will put Gendre to the test. It may quickly become difficult to film if it flies further towards us, but for now, look at how beautiful that is. Sorry about the power line in the way, but we can't move that. And it's a juvenile Bateleur. You can tell this because it's not black and white under wing. It's still brown and its tail is quite long. Their tail will become shorter as they become older. Imagine how awesome it would be to float effortlessly, silently, at quite high speeds. It's probably traveling at around 30 or 40 miles an hour roughly. And it's not the only raptor in the sky. There's a few more above it and beyond it. And they're all enjoying riding the hot air thermals rising off the earth. And it's very important for birds of prey to be able to travel huge distances without expending any energy as they search for potential prey. Bateleurs, the bird we're just looking at, will also scavenge, so they're not entirely predatory. They will also scavenge when they can. And I hope you enjoy that. It's one of my favorite things to see, is birds soaring in the sky, and you can't help but wish to experience that. On the way in to Djuma this afternoon, we saw one flying alongside our vehicle for quite some time, also a Bateleur, and all of us were highly envious of the view and the experience that it must be feeling. It would be wonderful to know what he thinks of us. Probably not too much. We never bring him food, and that's an important one for animals. And we never harm him, which is also an important factor and likely reality out here, so but the fact that we do and many other vehicles do spend so much time around them, it really would be wonderful to know their thoughts. So if any of you have joined the show very recently, the leopard we are looking at is Sindile, and Rosie was wondering who it was. So Rosie, it's young Sindile, Shadow's son, who's just approaching 12 months of age. He was born in August last year. And Lynn would like to know if there's been any sign of Shadow. Well, yes, we saw Shadow this morning, not far from here. She headed across the road from where we are. But interestingly, we did see some fresh tracks of what looked to be her coming into Djuma before we arrived here. We decided not to track her down because it's a very difficult task to track down a mother on the hunt, and we decided to rather come and look for him. He has moved off probably a quarter of a mile from where we left him this morning, so he has moved. Oh, what has he seen? Something has got his attention. It's surely not that blade of grass that he just sniffed. Absolutely beautiful. And I believe Deb would like to know exactly where we are at the moment, and we are on the boundary road between Djuma on the left and Arathusa on the right. So whichever way he decides to go, we can follow him, which is the good news. There are boundaries and traversing agreements out here which will prevent us from going onto certain properties, but thankfully it doesn't prevent the animals from moving. So they could go 300 kilometers from here without needing to leave the Kruger National Park, which is the greater reserve that we are a part of. Well, here's another good example of how good his senses are. I hadn't even heard the vehicle or seen the vehicle, but there is one arriving and he would have heard that and moved off before there was any danger. So again, a good example of how good their senses are compared to ours. I wonder if he's going to go up onto a little termite mound that he was heading towards. It would be great for us if he did. He hasn't quite gone as far as I would have liked him to, but we can park here and we'll get a great close-up view of him. There are a few little branches and sticks in the way, so apologies for that, but you'll still get some great views and we are very close to him. Brent for Scott. Brent, just to let you know, I had tracks of what looked like Shadow going east on Balanites from, I think, after drive this morning, and also tracks of a large male, probably from last night, heading north on Vuatila access from Zoe's. We are currently on Triple M, just south of Ballinati's on that transformer. He is on the Arethusa side, but very close, so still a good visual. Apologies folks, I'm just going to be on the radio for a few seconds helping Lex in. Go ahead Lex. Copy, perfect. Great, well Lex is coming to join us. Good to have him back here at Djuma. He is a private guide who brings his own clients to Djuma, and he's hugely experienced and a great guy to have around. So good to be sharing this beautiful sighting with him. Look at the size of that tick on his neck. Whew. Have you noticed that, everyone? I've just seen it now, and there is a massive grey blob. I'm going to try and show you with my finger. Where's my finger? Well, oh, it's just on the edge of my finger there. A big grey blob. And you should be able to see it. It looks very out of place. And you see where it is on his neck. He can't get to it. So he would need his mom to pluck that off for him. It's one of the advantages of being a lion. They spend so much time grooming one another that they can pluck off ticks from those hard to get spots. But young Sindile over here, his mother's so busy trying to catch him his next meal that she maybe hasn't spent too much time grooming him. Well, we got very lucky with our timing. Imagine we had have driven past this road now. Even though he was just lying a couple of meters off it, it would have been very tricky to see him. Thankfully he has left a trail of tracks leading down the road. But still, it's not an easy business finding these animals, so very fortunate when we get lucky. There's a cool breeze blowing this afternoon now, intermittently, and the conditions here in our winter months really make for wonderful days. Tim in Arkansas, good to have you with us, and thanks for sending your question through. Tim is interested to know when he will reach full independence. Tim, anywhere from 18 months of age, a young leopard, male or female, can be not booted out of home, but released of its mother's responsibilities to further feeding it. And that means they have to start fending for themselves. They will often find their mother and her kills, even though she doesn't want them to, and help themselves to an easy meal, but they will rely on themselves for hunting anywhere from 18 months. Djuma and quarantine, two other leopards that we have watched grow up in the last 7 months, have still been relying on their mother for a year or so after the 18-month period, not entirely, but still stealing kills from her. So it can vary between individual leopards. And in terms of full dominance, he would in all likelihood start looking into acquiring a territory at around 5 years of age. 4 to 5 years of age would be the kind of entry-level age for a young male to start throwing his weight around and trying to chase off old males or other males from various territories. He could move a long way from here before he does do that, and there's no saying how far he will need to go before he gets lucky, and there's also no saying that he will make it to full adulthood. He's still got a long way to go. Oh, big yawn. Not such a big one. Maybe I'll let out another one, so get ready for your screenshots. Pamela would like to know if that tick's going to cause any major harm to the leopard. No, Pamela, you don't have to worry about that happening. It's a minor inconvenience. If he was ridden with ticks all over his body, that certainly would have a negative impact, but he's capable of grooming most of them off, and therefore this is going to be a very, very minor, unnoticeable impact to him. Well, we are going to go from one beautiful coat to another, folks. Brent has found an exquisite animal for you, and it's going to certainly take you out of the grass and the undergrowth. We'll see you later.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, we've got a giraffe, and then just behind her are some elephants. So we stopped for the giraffe, and then we heard this crashing through the bush, and we wondered whether it was going to be elephants, and it turns out it is. So a double whammy. It sounds like there's some more elephants up ahead as well. And the giraffe is departing. Decided the elephants are invading her space. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to follow the giraffe. As you can see, there's quite a large drainage line between us and the elephants and the giraffe. But I'm going to try and make my way around to where I can cross the drainage line and see if we can catch up with both. So there we go. Isn't that great? There's also a Kambi of Ndlovu in this position of the Ndlulamiti. They are on the southern bank of the drainage line that runs from Treehouse Dam. I'm going to make my way around to Weaver's Nest and see if I can relocate on the other side. So it sounds like there's a lot of elephants in here. I wonder, definitely not the same herd we were with this morning. Well, if it is, it'd be very strange because I tracked them off the property. But stranger things have happened, and there are a lot of elephants in this area, and they do move quite a bit. So you never know. There we go. There's one on our right, well spotted, Brian. It's like one of the young males just on the periphery of the herd. See if we can listen, maybe there might be some more. So he's heading in the opposite direction. What I'm going to do is we can always come around back to where we saw those others, but there's a strong possibility there might be some heading towards Treehouse Waterhole. So I'm going to shoot across. It's always great when you catch elephants around the water and mud, playing and spraying. So we're going to have a quick look there because it is quite close to see if there are some elephants there, and if not, we'll shoot back down to the others. Lots of tracks. Unfortunately, these tracks look like they're leaving the waterhole and going that way. But that young bull did seem like he might make his way there. It's always worth having a check. You never know what might be around the next corner. Hi, Kathleen. Kathleen would like an update. There we go. On what happened with the lions. Do I know anything? Kathleen, the Nkuhumas were found, but to the east of us. So across our boundary, looks like there's a single elephant. There we go. Some elephants at the water. So it looks like they might have been together earlier, but they've split. So a female and a calf, and you probably think that young male we saw earlier might come join them. It's always quite funny when an elephant like that would choose the steepest section of the bank to come down and drink, when they've obviously got an option of all this flat area around. But it is quite fun when they have to go up or down those, when they slip and slide. Oh, there we go. So she might come down to the flat area. Doesn't seem to drink that much. Might be not too much in the mood for. Here we go. This could be quite funny. Okay, here we go. Oh, bit of slipping. Oh, well done though. Hopefully they'll come down round to where we're sitting and come drink right next to us. Don't know if you guys were able to hear that low rumbling. And that's just an elephant contact call. And those sounds can be heard for quite a few kilometers. And maybe she's been separated from the rest of that herd we saw. And now she's doing this. And a lot of those frequencies are well below what the human ear looks like. Just the way she's moving, she's got a response from someone. So she knows where she's going. That'll be quite nice. I think we're going to follow them, see if they meet up with the rest. It's quite interesting. You can see some really complicated greeting ceremonies between elephants. A lot of touching of trunks and sometimes intertwining trunks. Looks like we got there just in time for a quick drink before trying to catch up with the rest. Not in too much of a rush though. So I'm pretty sure we're going to catch up with these guys. I've just seen that young bull, and he might have a bit more fun in the water than those two. Not as perturbed about being by himself for a bit. These young bulls quite often hang on the peripheries. They are pushed out of the herds by the adult females. Let's see what his plan is. How's that for you, Brian? There we go. I love that water walk they get. They sort of get that excitement as he's coming up to the water. Well, it looks like he might come give us a visit first. Hopefully we don't get sprayed. So to give you guys an idea, he's probably less than 8 feet from where we're sitting now. There we go, you can see my hat, and there he is having a drink. Nice young bull, probably late teens. So they're pushed out of the breeding herds because they start to get a bit hormonal, so testosterone's pumping, and they can get quite boisterous, and this sometimes affects the rest of the herd. Hello, little boy. So elephant bulls probably reach or are capable of mating, so sexual maturity at around 14 years old, but they generally are not able to mate till they're probably closer to 30, and that's due to big bulls and dominant bulls in the area will never give them a chance. They'll just beat them up before they get the chance. So obviously when they come into must, they're in this heightened hormonal phase, and they can sometimes make them quite aggressive and unpredictable. And even when they're not, they're just sort of young, boisterous teenagers, so they do a lot of chasing of things like impala and make a lot of noise and just generally being quite boisterous, and that sometimes irritates the cows, especially when there's small calves involved. You might not thought there was a bit too much mud in that last bit of water. Spat it out. Probably find this herd, these elephants have drunk already at some point today. It would have been a much bigger drink. It's a very small drink. I was hoping you would make more song and dance about getting to the water, but it's possible that they've drunk already today. I think what he's doing, what to me it looks like he's doing now, is smelling the other elephants that were around here. You can see how he's sniffing the ground. He's not really drinking there, sort of rather spraying water in his mouth. And looks like he's going to get on the trail of the rest of the herd as well, so we shall do the same. And we might jump ahead of him and try to catch up with that cow. Hey, young man. Hopefully we'll see you a little bit later down the road with the rest of the elephants. So we'll see if we can catch up with that cow and calf. They came up onto the road just about here, and they were heading directly towards where those other ellies were. So we'll try and catch up. Doesn't look like they've stopped for a snack. They must have kept moving. Hi, Pamela. Welcome on the Sunset Safari, Pamela. Pamela said she recently read that there were only 500 elephant in the whole of Nigeria. Do I know whether this is the exact figure? Pamela, I'm afraid I don't. I know there are not many elephant left in Nigeria, and it's a very populated country. So it is possible that that could be the exact figure, but then again, it's very difficult to be exact with a wild animal. We can just give a general guess. Outside of a sort of fenced reserve, and especially in Nigeria, there are very few national parks and game reserves. Well, it looks like the rest of that breeding herd have crossed over the road, and we'll see if we can try and catch them. But yeah, Pamela, I'm not 100% sure. I've actually never been to Nigeria, and it would be a very fascinating place to go one day, but I know wildlife in Nigeria has taken a very severe decline in the last sort of 50 to 60 years. We're going to stop and listen to see if we can hear them. Sounds like some just over here, off to the front of the vehicle. I hear a tree coming down. We've got some questions from Janet in Baltimore. Hi, Janet. Welcome on the Sunset Safari. Janet would like to know, do the elephants actually blow the water into their mouths, or does it just trickle down? They do, Janet. They do actually blow, and there we go. We've caught up with the herd. I'm just going to try to find a way where we can see them there in some thickets there. And Cecilia would like to know, which waterhole were we at? That was Treehouse Waterhole that we were just at. And this looks like a good spot to gain access to the Ellies. I've actually had some really wonderful elephant sightings in this exact area before. Now the trick is finding the gap. Unlike the London Underground, where we've got to mind the gap, out here in the bush we've got to find the gap. And if we can't, we make the gap. Jerry from Maryland. Welcome on this Sunset Safari. Jerry would like to know, how much water can they suck up into their trunk? My memory serves me correct, Jerry. It's about 8 liters of water that can be sucked into the trunk. Calm down, little one. I'm going to just try to find the gap here. And if those of you are new viewers and wondering, or have logged in a little bit late, wondering how to send us questions about what we're seeing here in the bush, you can do that. There was a little bit of disciplining going on. This cow that's behind the bush, that one there, just sort of stabbed another younger one in the bum. Got too close to her little knobthorn bush. And if you were wondering how to send us questions, you can do it by emailing us, and the email address is questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So I mentioned a while ago, especially after we've just heard that elephant sort of scream, that the Jurassic Park movies, I'm not so sure about the latest one, but the previous ones, the majority of those really strange dinosaur sounds that were made were actually slowed down elephant screams and rumbles. So really interesting. Elephants, African elephants have featured heavily in Hollywood without even knowing. that's the little one in shot now that got the telling off by the slightly older one. Hi, Gert from the Netherlands. Gert would like to know, is it true that big bull elephants often teach the young bull elephants how to behave? And in the absence of those big dominant bulls, the younger bulls misbehave or behave sort of out of what we would consider natural behavior, and like the killing of the rhinos in Pilanesberg National Park. Something more interesting happening over my shoulder. Moving that dead knobthorn to try get at some of the smaller stuff underneath it. That is true to a degree. So basically what happens is when those younger bulls come into those must cycles with high testosterone levels, they are sort of very aggressive, and obviously they are not really old enough to know what's going on yet. And in an area like this, what happens there is that the big bulls will dominate them during their must cycles, which will often fall outside of the big bull's must cycle. So their big dominant bulls, their must cycle will be in the season where the females, the most females on estrus, and this depends and changes in different areas of Africa. So then you generally find your younger bulls will have their must cycle outside of that period, but the dominant bulls don't let them get away with anything pretty much during that time. So what happened in Pilanesberg National Park is they introduced a whole bunch of elephant, but no sort of bulls over sort of 20. And these bulls during their must cycles went on absolute rampages and killed rhinos at water holes and all sorts of things. So you definitely need those big bulls to try temper the younger bulls in their first few years of must. So quite interesting there, you see that young female, she moved that dead buffalo thorn and dead knobthorn to get to some grass that's underneath. So there's obviously still some greenery under there. And elephants in this area, and most areas, in fact, will outside of your major grasslands like the Masai Mara and Serengeti, during the winter months or the dry season months, 80% of their diet will be made up of bark and leaves and whatnot, and during the summer months 80% will be made up of grass and 20% of grass and leaves, and vice versa. So what this does is it makes sure they've always got something to feed on, and as you can see, but if they do find any nice grass like that one has underneath there, they will definitely take advantage of that. And if we go wide here, you can see this is a particularly favorite elephant feeding area. If we just have a look all around us, the young knobthorns here have been absolutely decimated. I mean, you just have a look around us. Oh, look who's coming. Hello, little one. But you can just see there's just absolutely decimated knobthorns. And I'm very happy to say, I think I know which herd this is. And this particular character, who's got a very wrinkly skin, coming up to us, is definitely becoming a firm favorite of all of us here at Djuma, and of the viewers who watch with us regularly. And his mom has got those very even tusks, and she's slowly coming through. Very relaxed breeding herd. We can actually sort of drive into the middle of them with no problem, and you can tell from their body language. But I think that's Mr. Wrinkly Bottom. Very wrinkly skin for a young elephant. Hi, Kathleen. Kathleen would like to know whether any of the lodges in the area harvest any of this downed wood for heating use or for cooking. Well, Kathleen, a little bit, but not much. A little bit for firewood, for that wonderful campfire that will be sitting around in the evenings. but they do try leave the majority of it there. Just remember that down dead wood might look dead to us, but that's food for wood borer beetles, a great home for scorpions, spiders. It's a place for things like dwarf mongoose to hide from predators. So even this downed wood all around us is used by lots of animals. So it's important that we don't ever take too much of it, and you just take enough to use for your campfire. So cooking is normally done on gas, gas stoves and ovens and that. But when we do have those, sometimes have those fires, we sit there and we'll cook meat on a barbecue over the fire. And that's about the only time we really use it for cooking out here. But I'm going to stay with these ellies for a bit longer and wait for them to move out of this really difficult patch where we can't really get a good view of any of them. And in the meantime, we're going to cross across to Scotty and see what he's been up to. And we'll be back with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone, and it sounds like you've been having an incredible sighting with some of the largest and less elusive of the animals out here. And we are still with young Sindile from Arathusa with us here in the sighting, which is great. It's not just one vehicle enjoying this, but three, and three is the maximum amount of vehicles that we will tolerate in a sighting with an animal, and that's to make sure that they don't feel uncomfortable or overwhelmed. And now he's giving them a turn to look at his face. It's very thick in here, so I'm going to avoid moving around where possible. What I may even suggest doing is for us to move out of the sighting and come back in about 20 minutes and rejoin. That way we can allow other vehicles to come and have a look while the view's not ideal and while he's asleep, and we can then come back a little bit later, so we'll be sharing and also strategically planning our afternoon more accordingly. So that's the plan. Let's take a drive around and go and have a look and see what else we can find. And there will be other vehicles here monitoring his movements, so I'm hoping he won't get lost. And interesting that Yvonne has commented and noticed that she thinks Sindile is looking a lot more relaxed than he was just a week ago. And every day and each time we spend time with him, he will become more and more accustomed to the vehicle. And that's what makes for such great viewing in the Sabi Sands. Leopards from a very young age will be exposed to vehicles and realize that we cause no harm to them and actually don't help them. So they don't rely on us and they're not scared of us. And that allows for these incredible sightings that we get to share with you. Okay, well, we're going to link back to Brent. He's still with those large elephants, so we'll see you all a bit later and enjoy the elephant show.
There we go, guys. There's that very wrinkly Ellie having a drink, and he said his mom's quite recognizable with those very long straight tusks and the tears in her ear. So definitely the same herd we've seen, and you can see how relaxed they are around the vehicles, even though we are in quite a thick area and we're doing a little bit of bashing and crashing over these fallen down knobthorn trees, and she's still completely relaxed with our presence. So it's very interesting. You need to read elephant behavior very carefully, and they normally tell you from quite a distance whether it's going to be safe to approach them. And there's actually very few elephants I like to follow in these slightly thicker areas, and this herd in particular, you can see from their behavior from quite a long way off that they're not going to be a problem. She's showing no sign of aggression, no head flapping, no raising her head, Her tail is swinging just to keep flies away. No sort of stiffening of the body or the tail. So all behavior showing that she's a very relaxed and very used to the vehicles and doesn't really take much notice of us. And that herd we saw on the sunrise safari, I wouldn't follow into an area this thick. There were some individuals in that herd that weren't nearly as relaxed as some others, and you can sometimes, by setting one of those unrelaxed individuals off, set the rest of the herd off. Don't know if you guys can hear that, but I actually could hear the slurping of the little guy. Oh, here we go. Thanks, Mom. That's a much better view for us. And you can see that very wrinkly skin on this little guy. And lovely late afternoon light. So we can see there between the two elephants, almost always present in a lot of our non-carnivorian sightings, and even in some of our carnivore sightings, is that the fork-tailed dronga, taking advantage of every insect disturbed. I probably guess there's about 7 or 8 as I glance around that are following the ellies and taking advantage of any insect that might be disturbed by them. And this little one's still trying to learn how to use his trunk on that raisin bush. Definitely a little bit better with his trunk than the last time I saw him. He's managing to get a few more of those leaves. You can hear the other elephants moving all that dead knobthorn around us, behind us. At the moment I can only see about 8 or 9 elephants, but I'm sure there's quite a few more in this area. Just from what I can hear. Hi, Judith from North Carolina. Welcome on the Sunset Safari. Great to have you on the back of the vehicle, Judith. Judith would like to know, elephants that lose pieces of their trunks from snares, are they able to survive? Well, Judith, actually on the live safaris, we've seen 2 different individuals that have lost portions of their trunks to snares, and they've learned to adapt. It's incredible that they have. And the one is missing quite a fair portion, I would guess, probably about this much. And it uses, obviously, can never be as dexterous as the others that have got that tip, that prehensile tip. But she manages to just sort of grab things and get them to her mouth. So it is possible for them to survive and live a long time. But unfortunately, in some cases, those things do get infected. And the infections is what kills them normally. But fortunately, the 2 I have seen around here are doing extremely well. They look completely healthy, and they've both lost different lengths of their trunk, the most part being about that much, which is quite a fair bit. So instead of that nice prehensile tip that these ones we're looking around us have, they have a much thicker tip, so obviously much harder to grab and hold on to things. Oh, timber! So, quite a few of these elephants here, because a lot of these trees that have been pushed down maybe last year or during the wet season, quite a lot of grass has managed to survive underneath them. So a lot of what we're hearing is not the elephants pushing down more trees. It's them actually moving the dead trees to get to the grass underneath. I'm just going to try and move around a little bit so you can see a few more of them. And bear with me, it is a particularly, some can be quite a tricky area to move around in because of all the dead, all the elephant trees. Hi, Yaki from the UK. Welcome on this sunset safari. Yaki would like to know, how do elephants clean their trunks after they've had a mud bath? He's never seen them clean it. Yaki, generally just by that high pressure blow. There we go. Hello, Mr. Wrinkly Bottom. You can see not quite as dexterous as an adult with the trunk. But sorry, back to that. They would just really blast or drink, if there is water available at the same time, they'll draw water in and then blast the water out as well. Seems like more leaves go on the ground than in the mouth. Hi, Aaron from Missouri. Welcome on the Sunset Safari, Aaron. Pleasure to have you with us this evening. Aaron would like to know, do I think the Eddie will grow out of his distinct wrinkly skin, or he will have it for the rest of his life? Aaron, to be 100%, I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. I think he might have quite a distinct skin. Oh, another one coming to join. For the rest of his life, but it'll be very interesting to watch as he grows. While we are in this area, to see if there is any change and less wrinkles as he gets older. But at the moment, there hasn't been too much change since we've been here and been watching him for the last few months. Oh. Here we go. Coming to the top of the termite mound next to us. No, just go there. Hi, Jerry from Maryland. I'm just going to reposition the vehicle a bit quickly. See where the others are behind me. Okay. Jerry would like to know, when an elephant sees, does it see sort of side to side, or can it see directly in front? They will be able to see a portion in front, and there will be a little blind spot right off their nose, but not too large a blind spot. Certain food species they will go for by sight. Others, a majority will be by smell. Sorry, we didn't mean to give you a fright. Yes, I'm sorry. We'll stop here. Just got a little fright there, that young female. There's that drongo flapping around every time she disturbs an insect. Let's see, we'll move forward very quietly now. As quietly as we can in this area where elephants have done. Oh, I think she's gonna move this fallen down tree to possibly get to some of that grass underneath. We're gonna have a quick look, just get into position. Although this knobthorn, even though it's been pushed over by the elephants, is still very much alive. And you'll find that with a lot of trees that elephants do push over, they will be able to continue growing even though if it's an angle. And eventually, after a few years, you'll find that some of the branches will start going upright, obviously growing towards the sun, and we're now surrounded. A very scary elephant to our left, probably the largest and most intimidating in the Sabi Sands. So you can just hear this crashing all around us. And again, to me it sounds more like the elephants moving the fallen down trees to get to the grass rather than actually pushing down new trees. I'll try and move forward a little bit again. Paddy from Michigan would like to know, is his skin condition from an amniotic fluid leak when he was an embryo, or in utero, sorry, in the uterus? Paddy, to be completely honest, I have absolutely no idea. I'm not sure whether that would cause something like that, but maybe you guys can have a look and see if you guys can find anything about if there's an amniotic fluid leak in utero, whether that would cause a skin defect. So we're going to cross back to Scott really quickly. He's got something quite interesting, and we will be back hanging around with the Ellies.
Welcome back, everyone. And this isn't a bird we get to show you very often. Look at how awesome its patterns are and its bright red head. This is a little cardinal woodpecker. Absolutely awesome. And we got really lucky initially when we asked for the link from Nikki. He flew off and we at the wrong time, and we thought we had lost him as you were coming to us, but thankfully he only flew a few meters and we got to show you him. I'm just going to pull out my book quickly and then get you back to Brent and the elephants. I'd really like to show you in the book, because they are such pretty birds. They all look quite similar to one another and can be quite difficult to distinguish in the field. The cardinal woodpecker is the smallest, so it was easy to identify because it's considerably smaller than the other three that we get here. And this was a male, we can tell because he had a bright red head. The females of the golden-tailed and Bennett's woodpeckers will also have a little bit of red on their head. But the bearded and cardinal, it's just the males who have the red head. And wasn't that a beautiful glimpse of such an awesome little bird? So without further ado, we are gonna get you back to Brent and that wonderful sighting of the elephants. We are making our way back towards Sindile. A few vehicles have managed to go in there and have a quick look, and now there's a bit more space for us. So we'll be back there shortly. Enjoy the elephants.
Welcome back, everyone. We're still sitting with these Ellies. I see you had a quick bird lesson from Scotty. Nice to see some woodpeckers. Are really pretty birds. We're still with these Ellies. Unfortunately, I was hoping they might move into a more open area, but at the moment they're not. So we will sit with them for a bit longer, but it is becoming more and more difficult to follow them through these thickets, mostly because they've pushed down all the trees. Hi, Grace from Dallas. Welcome on the Sunset Safari. Grace would like to know, when will the little Ellie get his tusks? Well, Grace, they will be born with very small tusks, like milk teeth almost, that will fall out, and you'll start seeing the beginning of the adult teeth at about a year old. Just when he's too big to fit under his mom's tummy. On a size comparison for you there. Hi, Robin from Maryland. Robin would like to know whether an elephant broke its tusk, would it keep growing through its life, or would it stop growing? They will keep growing, but it is quite difficult. Once they break a tusk, and it depends whether they break it inside the mouth or not, but they will keep growing, but very slowly, and their elephant tusks will continue to grow throughout their lives. Hi, Laura Croft. Welcome on the Sunset Safari. Laura would like to know if I've ever seen two elephants fight each other. I have, Laura. I've seen some very, very serious elephant bull fights of some really monstrous bulls. And even in one of those cases, one of the bulls that was in the fight went on to die from the injuries that it incurred during that fight. It got stabbed right sort of behind the shoulder, and I think the tusk must have pierced the lung, and it was quite a slow, painful death for that elephant. It took 7 or 8 hours to die, and that was from fighting for breeding rights with another big bull. But I have seen it quite a few times, and often if you find sort of broken bits of ivory in the bush, that is from elephant bulls fighting, and they do can get very, very aggressive, and it is sometimes quite a dangerous thing to watch. You've got to position your vehicle very carefully. You always want to stick a little bit further away in those situations, because they are so enthralled with fighting each other that they don't really notice a little old vehicle in the way. And I've heard of some horror stories in East Africa of guides being in the wrong position during an elephant fight and people getting hurt because the elephants, one got chased by the bigger one and ran straight into the vehicle. But it is a really, a battle of the titans when you see two big elephant bulls really, really going at it. It does happen quite often, but normally one will run away quite quickly as soon as it realizes it's losing. And as I said, sometimes sometimes one can die from it. One or both can even injure themselves badly enough that they will pass away from it. At the Letaba Elephant Museum in Kruger National Park, there's actually an elephant skull that has got a tusk inside it, where during a fight, one elephant's tusk broke off inside the skull of the other, and that obviously the one who had the tusk in the brain was expired. So, they can be very, very, very violent fights. So here's another example of a knob thorn that has been pushed over by an elephant or broken by elephants, but this one a little bit higher up, and as you can see, it still continues to grow. And here the elephants have come, and she's pruning it now. Give you an idea about those thorns. If we had to grab that little branch with our hands like that, it would be absolutely excruciating. If you can come maybe on one of these little knobthorn branches here to the left. You can maybe see those terribly hooked thorns. Not so obvious there, but you can see them there. And also the thing with acacia thorns, there is a little bit of poison in them. So they become really itchy and swell on humans. And we just watch these elephants just grab them and treat them like they're absolute 2-ply toilet paper soft. Hi, Pamela. Pamela would like to know whether park officials would ever put out food for the elephants if it got very bad. Pamela, the elephants are in this big, huge 3.5 million hectare open system. They would move to an area where there's possibly been a bit more rainfall and more food, but park officials would never put out food. Droughts are quite often nature's way of controlling population, especially of your sort of large animals like elephant. So if the elephant population was getting a bit big, a big drought would kill off a couple of thousand, and that would be nature's way of controlling elephant, because there's very few predators outside of man. So in an open system like this, not fenced, they can move. No park officials would ever put down food. If the elephants were dying of starvation and lack of water from drought, they would leave it be because it's nature taking its course. And a time like that would end up as a time of plenty for the lions and hyenas and other predators, because there would be a lot of big free meals lying around. So guys, these ellies are moving deeper and deeper into what is a very woody thicket. But we will stay while this is another little one who's just arrived on the scene. But they are about to disappear into this very thick bush. And it is getting a little bit later in the afternoon, and I don't want to disturb them. So, we'll wait for, here comes Mom. We'll wait for these last few to pass us. And then we'll venture on to see what else we can find. Hi, Lynn. Lynn's just got a comment. She said it must be really painful when they break off a tusk in a fight. I'm sure it is incredibly painful. And quite often I have seen abscesses and things form on those broken tusks. And even on females, when they're trying to use their tusks to strip bark and whatnot, they can break. And sometimes abscesses and infections can form on those breaks on the tusks, which can cause an incredible amount of pain. And even death for an elephant, because they don't have any dentists out here. Hi James, welcome on the Sunset Safari. Great to have you on the back of the vehicle with us this evening. James would like to know, what age do elephants start secreting from temporal glands, from stress and whatnot? James, I've seen anything from month-old babies secrete from their temporal glands, so I don't think it's an age thing. I think those glands are active from when they're very young, so they can secrete from them at any time. So guys, I don't know what you guys think. Maybe we should try stay with them a little bit longer and see if I can find a gap through. It does look like they possibly might move into a little bit more of an open area. So why don't you guys let me know? Should we keep following the elephants for a bit longer, or should we head on to see if we can find anything else? In the meantime, I'm going to turn around and put myself in the position where we can either go left to the elephants or right back to the road. Still got one bottom to look at while we do that. Hi, Anne from Texas. Anne's got a really nice question for me. Anne would like to know what I like the most about elephants. Well, Anne, probably everything. The fact that they're so incredibly strong, the size, the smell, that sort of smell of elephant dung, you really know you're in the bush. Even just seeing their tracks and dung everywhere, it's a real sort of feeling of well-being for me. I really like most things about elephants. But also, I think in particular, I love watching them around water holes and in mud or dust bathing. You get to see how incredibly dexterous their trunk is, and spraying mud up in the air and dust. And I think one of my favorite things, and I think Brian was actually with me when this happened. We had a huge musk elephant bull, and Brian was with me on that one, and he literally came this far, and he actually put his trunk at Brian, and I had to sort of go, stop it, naughty elephant. And he sort of did the sheepish down, and then went and kicked up some dust and literally sprayed us, completely covered in dust. Camera, us, everything was covered in dust. That I really do like it when you have those sort of huge Eddie bulls that are actually incredibly gentle, and they'll come right up to the vehicles. I almost thought about sort of giving Brian a little sniff, so a funny smelling cameraman, but no, I just really enjoy spending time with elephants. I'm with all animals out here, but elephants definitely are my top couple of animals to spend time with. Also when the little ones get cheeky and start charging vehicles and trumpeting, I haven't quite got that sort of earth-shattering trumpet or scream down yet. It's sort of like whee, but really great animals to spend time with. Sorry guys, I just need to be on the Game Drive channel for a second. Standing by. Not yet. Craig, I didn't make it there. I'm still with this Shambhavan Love, just to the east of Weaver's Nest, with the junction of Treehouse Road.
Okay.
Hi, Patty from Michigan. Thank you very much. Patty's been very complimentary. Said to a lot of our viewers, I seem to lead a life of adventure. But what's next on my sort of world bucket list? Well, Patty, Ethiopia is very high on my world bucket list to go see the most endangered canid in the world, which is an Ethiopian wolf or a simian fox, and southern Sudan to see the large mammal migration in the world. There's a white-eared cob. Unfortunately, it's a war zone at the moment, but I'll definitely get there one day. Definitely to go see big cats outside of Africa. Tigers in India, and also just see things like Indian rhino and Indian wild dogs called does. And